we have the weekly price index for wholesale used cars. Over 40% from where we started at the beginning of the year. This purple line is unlike any other year we've had. And I love how you guys put this gold line for 2009 to provide some context. So I guess I'll come back to it, Laura. Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, so, a lot of this really is being driven by the inventory shortage, both new and used. So, we hear so much about the new inventory shortage because of the microchips and all of that, and now magnesium. And it seems like it's constantly something new that is impacting our new car production. But what that also means is we've had a shortage of used cars also, which is what is not only are you having new buyers that are having to go buy used, but you have your normal used buyers that are in the market for that segment that we don't have the normal supply. We've now had, we're going on 2 years almost of reduced rental purchasing. So we don't have those coming back to market. Same with your fleet companies. You don't have repossessions. We still don't have repossessions coming back to market. That's a huge piece of it. We don't have lease returns. There just aren't the same number of those. And if they do come back, they really don't make it into the wholesale auctions because they're being scooped up by those franchise dealers. Those grounding dealers are buying those. So they're not making it into your traditional auction environment, which is really keeping those away from any of your independents. In some cases, we've even had those manufacturers that are only allowing the grounding dealer of that franchise of, so if it's a Lexus, it only can be paid off by a Toyota Lexus dealer. So you could not go and try to trade in your leased Lexus at a Chevrolet dealership. So we've really been seeing some just crazy things happening, and it's all just sending the values up. Both retail and wholesale, and it really is just driven by that lack of supply on the new and the used.
Have you heard anything about dealerships changing their aging policy as to how they approach the age of their used car inventory? In the past, historically, dealers either worked on a 90-day or a 60-day turn policy for their pre-owned cars. But I would imagine today, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would imagine that as cars keep appreciating in value, that they would throw out that 60 or 90-day turn policy, and there's probably no such thing as they're aged, because as they get, it's like a fine wine. It gets better with age and becomes more valuable.
Yeah, anecdotally, the answer is yes, Ray. In more traditional times, a dealer would keep that vehicle, to your point, 70, 80, 90 days, and they would have milestones. That vehicle would drop in price. After 15 days, you drop it a little bit. After 30 days, you drop it a little bit more, and so on until you got to that 90th day. And then we got to get that thing out because nobody wants it. These days, they are pricing it to the market with even potentially addendums on top of that. And they're not budging. And so the traditional playbook of take an offer, negotiate, see what you can get. If not, we'll decrease the price and remarket it if we need to. It's been thrown out the window in many cases. They're setting the price based on market. They are using data more to drive their decisions, which we certainly appreciate and applaud them for. But the negotiation, it's for the most part a one price store approach, which I think you could be an advocate of in more traditional times. But in this case, it's, hey, the market is ruling. Let's get what we can get.
Do you guys have conversations with the banks and the lending institutions? Because I'm curious as to how the banks can justify lending the amount of money that is required to purchase some of these vehicles when historically they want greater participation from a customer to begin with. Yeah,
there's a term called loan to value, LTV, that's in the industry. And that essentially says that, the vehicle is worth $20,000. The bank may loan 110% of that. So they'll loan $22,000 on top of that. We are more in touch with our lender clientele these days than ever before in the 9 and 10 years that Laura and I have both been here. It's many conversations per week. And they are trying to determine from a forecasting standpoint what's going on in the marketplace, because once they get these vehicles in their inventory, they have to depreciate those loans correctly. And they're in the risk mitigation business, where they don't want you to not be able to pay your monthly payment on that vehicle because you've realized that the vehicle is worth less than what you owe. You just walk away from it. It's a very nervous time. They've got to continue to loan money because they got to feed the engine. They got to fuel that. We are beginning to see that the underwriting, the criteria of what they're writing the loans are, similar to mortgages, is becoming more and more important. And we're asking them to keep that front and center, ensure you've got the job and you've got the payments and you've got the credit that you can actually do that. They're in business to make money too. But they're looking around the corners more, anticipating that, wow, these vehicles are certainly, from an LTV standpoint, higher than normal.
Are there any other leading indicators that, as car buyers here, I just saw in the chat here a moment ago, we had Josh say, looking to get a 2022 Civic Sports sedan, was just quoted MSRP at another dealer, MSRP 2,500. What a bad time to need a car. You're not going to really find any deals under MSRP, but what are the leading indicators that are going to tell us, both on the new car market and used car market, that things are shifting, things are changing? Is it just the consumer demand? Is it the production numbers? What are those leading indicators you all are looking at?
I think the production. So right now, if you keep up with industry news, it seems like every week there are new announcements from multiple manufacturers about production shutdowns, reduction in shifts, that kind of thing, that are impacting their output. I think that's a big one. Once we start to get production back up and going, where we can start to get into normal purchasing by your rental companies and, being able to satisfy that demand, I think that's when we're going to start to see, some type of a correction. But until then, you're going to continue to see markups on these new vehicles. You're getting a great deal if you can buy a new car at MSRP. Even the rental companies, they're going to dealers and saying, I'll pay you MSRP. They just need vehicles. So everybody, there's that competition right there. Seek out the dealer that's willing to sell it to you for MSRP. Because there are the ones out there that they're marking it up because they can, because there aren't any out there. Or if you can wait, you can order one. You may be waiting 6 months, but that's a way, in some cases you can lock in your price, because we will see increases in pricing, especially as we're seeing those 22 prices released. They're going to be increased from 21 on a lot of vehicles. So if you could, and sometimes they'll do mid-year increases too. So watch out for that. You could go ahead and lock in that price now.